Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Bepo Johnson Vola, a graduate in telecommunication engineering and mobile networks with many years of work experience. So today we are going to be looking at the basic configuration of a Cisco router. Remember in our last lectures we had to look at the basic configuration in a Cisco switch. So today we are going to look at the basic configuration in a Cisco router. Like you can rightly see here on your screen, this is a sample of a Cisco router. So we have here the front and the back view, but this view might vary based on the series or the version of the Cisco router. So when I'm talking about the series, like here you see this is Cisco Cisco 1921 series. This one is a Cisco router 1900 series. What actually makes Cisco router different from a switch? The primary thing that you are going to notice is this switch, which is here, this switch, the power switch. Once you see this power switch, you have to understand immediately that this is a router. Only routers have a power switch button to on and off it. So what will make you to distinguish between a router and a switch on a primary view is this power switch button. And most routers comes with these two gigabit internet port. You might also have fast internet port here, so it depends on the series. So but you mostly see this gigabit, 2 gigabits internet port. Is it? And then also you have this console port, you have the auxiliary, and you have this console port whereby you log in either through with your laptop to configure the router and so on. Then you have this USB flash port. You also have this other console port, okay, that you can use to log in to the switch. So Cisco has made it in such a way that you can upgrade or the hardware of the router. Like you see here, here you can unscrew this and add other modules depending on your requirement or the demands of your network. Like here you see this is a switch hardware. This is a hardware that you can incorporate into this Cisco router. There are other modules. You have fiber modules, you have serial module, you know. It all depends on your network requirement. But the physical view of a router is something like this. You will definitely see this behind the router, and the front view is something like this. Okay, now let's quickly jump into the basic configuration of a router. So today we are pretty much going to be looking at the same thing that we saw on configuring a switch. So the basic configuration is almost the same, only some few difference. We are going to see on there how to configure the host name, logon banner, console password, telnet password, enable password, password encryption, IP address, shutdown, negating command, and saving your configuration. Okay, so without wasting much time, let's jump into packet tracer and see how we can perform this basic configuration. So I will choose let me just choose a simple router, this 1841 series router, which is a fast internet router. So we open the router and we're going to the CLI command, and if you look at it, the router is decompressing. And what else will we notice? You see the information of the router is being displayed. So when you take a router that has not yet been configured or used, whatever router that you use, once you log into the router through the console port, you will notice some information about the router. Like let me just take a few examples. Like here you see you have a 191 kilobytes of NVRAM, you know, and other stuffs. And the next thing that you have to see is this yes or no command, which asks you, would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? No, it is pretty simple. Once you said yes, so it will automatically configure the switch by going through some series of steps that you will validate, but it is mostly recommended for us to configure it manually as per our network. So most often we will just say no, so that we can configure our router as per our requirement. And the first thing that we have on our list is what? The host name. So guys, it is pretty much simple, just same as what we saw on our Cisco switch. So we are in the user exit mode. We move to the global configuration mode. We move to the privilege exit mode by typing the command enable, and after enable we type the command config T to move to the global exit mode. And it is in this global exit mode where we perform all our configuration. So to change the name of the router is pretty much simple. If we look here, you see the initial or the default name of the router is just router. So if we want to give it a name that suits the purpose for which we are using the router, we have to come here and say what? Host name. So you might give a name that helps you to best identify the router, or you can give it according to the service, or maybe the position. You can say floor 1, room 2, room this, networking router, any kind of name based on the function or location. So here we'll just keep it simple by just saying R1. Okay, we just give it R1. So by this we have already given it a host name. Okay, now the next thing we are going to look on is what? Logon banner. And the logon banner, all the commands are pretty much the same, guys. So just what we have to do, we just come here. The command for logon banner, as we said in the previous lecture, logon banner is what? The message that you first see once you log into the router. Okay, once you connect to the router or log into the router through the console port or maybe through telnet, the first message that welcomes you is what we call the logon banner. So in order to configure the logon banner, what do? We put in the command banner MOTD, where MOTD stands for what? Message of the day. And if you don't know what to do next, you can just type a question mark so that it shows you what you have to do, the command that you have to, the commands that have to follow. And you see here they are saying line C banner, text C, where C is the delimiting character. This means that what? You will use a character to mark the beginning of the message and use that same character to mark the end of what? The message. So let me just use this ampersand. Okay, and now it has taken it. Now I have to put my message. Okay, so let me just say, like I said in the previous one, don't mess with this router. Okay, so that will be my welcoming message, so that anybody that gets, or somebody that's just by chance or doesn't have any serious business to do with the router should know that this is not a router to mess with. And after that word, we end it with the delimiting character that we began the statement with. Okay, and that's it, and boom, that is my logon banner. So if I exit now, okay, let me just exit everything and just be as if I'm just logging into the machine. So now you see this is our message which says don't mess with this router. You can do other design, do other stuff, get creative, and make it look more nice, but the only disadvantage here is that you eat up more space when you do put on design sophisticated, or put more complex stuffs. Okay, so it's always good to keep it simple. Now the next thing we are going to look at is what? The console password. And guys, as we say, this is the console. We have only one console where we log in to configure the router. You can also use this one, but the main one that we use is this console. Okay, so let's go. and configure the console, and we said to get into the console is what? Line console. Okay, so we get into what? Line console 0. Here we are in the console, the console line, and we say password. Let's just give it Johnson. Okay, that is the password. And we said one thing, that putting the password is not just enough. You have to make the router ask for password, the credential of the password, before someone can log in to the router. Let's say, for instance, I just say password and I allow it like that. I exit. Okay, so you see I have exit. When I come here, you see it's not asking me for any password, but there is a password. I have to give it the command to ask for password. Like, you might think that there is no password, but if you say, if you check by using this command show run, you will see that actually at line console 0 there is a password. But why am I logging in to the router without it asking me for password? Is because we have not given it the command to ask for password, the credential of using the router. So what we have to do, we go back to line console. So we go back to line console 0, and we put in the command login. Okay, so by this command we are telling it to ask for password, or to verify password before giving in the access. Okay, so if we now exit, now you see it's asking for password because we have given it the command to ask for password. So if I don't type the password, there's no way that I will be able to log in to this router. Okay, so what is the next thing we are looking at? After the console password, now we have what we call the telnet password. And guys, I believe you can remember what is known by telnet password. That is the out of band access. So let's say you are in the network, you are somewhere in the network, and you are not having direct or physical contact or access to this switch, but you are connected to the network and you want to make some changes to this router. You can use telnet to access the router in order to configure it. So that is why it's also important to put password, because some people on the network might also try to make some changes based on their needs, or maybe what they feel is right, and which is also not right. Okay, only you as a network administrator supposed to make some changes. Okay, not only for people in the network, but let's say for hackers. Okay, hackers can come, and without having the possibility of having direct physical contact to the router, and it sits somewhere and connects to the network and telnet into this router. Okay, so if there is a password, it will be very difficult for that hacker to access the router or the network. So let's see how we set up the console password, the telnet password. Okay, so remember we said telnet, we have to use line VTY. So we said line VTY 0 to 4. Okay, and we said password, let's just say John. Okay, so by this we have set the password, and remember we have to tell it to ask for password by putting in the command login. Okay, so like this we have set the password and giving it the possibility to ask for password. And now the next thing we are going to look in is enable password. Okay, we will come to this enable password, but before we come to this enable password, we would have set this IP address and connect it to another PC in order to be able to understand what is enable password. Okay, so for that we move on to password encryption. Okay, but we'll still come back to enable password after we have configured IP addressing and shutdown. Okay, after we have looked at IP address and the shutdown command. Okay, so what is password encryption? Okay, let's say while working on your machine, someone might just pass and have a glance and he saw this password Johnson. So the password has already been easily given away. But if this password was encrypted, it will be in a different form whereby it will be more difficult for the person to memorize. Okay, so for us to encrypt this password, we have to put in a command to encrypt it, and the command is what? Service password encryption. It's also encryption. Okay, yeah, service password encryption. Okay, remember before this, if you look at the do show run, you saw that there was no service password encryption. Okay, before validating or putting in this command, we were having no service password encryption, and our password was just showing in the normal format that we put it, Johnson, which means that if I'm working on my router and someone just passed beside me and give a glance, someone can easily pick this password to use. But now we have put service password encryption. So let's see what it now gives. Okay, do show run. Voila. So now if we look at my password, you will now see this is what it has been encrypted into. So someone passing by looking at this, it will be more and more very difficult for someone to memorize it. Okay, let's say by chance the person by chance the person have access or get access into this router and is able to copy this encrypted password. Let's see if the person put this password, he or she will be able to have access into this router. Okay, so let's paste the password. You see that it is impossible for the person having that encrypted password to have access into the router. But that is not all. Okay, because the person, by having this, can still decrypt this password and have the original password. It is very pretty much simple, guys, to decrypt it. All the person needs is to go to go online and search CISCO CISCO the person can just go online and search for CISCO decryption password, and you see, like here, you take CISCO type 7 password decrypt. Remember when we come into the router, when you look at the information on the password, you see it is level 7 password. So the person can just look for this. There are several sites where they can use to decrypt this. This one cannot do that. Okay, let me just check for a site that can really do that. CISCO Let's see. Okay, Cisco password 7 decrypt. Which one can I use? I use this one. Let me see. Voila. Okay, let's use this. Okay, so the person can come into the switch. Okay, copy this encrypted password, go online on one of those decrypting sites and paste it there and submit. Okay, what do you see? So the password is being given away. So guys, by doing that, you have not totally and fully secured the access into this router. Okay, so what do you do in order to solve this particular problem? What do you have to do in order to solve this particular problem? So we enable something called secret. Okay, we put in this command, enable secret Cisco. By putting in this command, the password is being encrypted in a very different level, like level 5 encrypted password, which is much more difficult to decrypt this password online. As of now, I've not seen a site that can decrypt this level 5 password security of the router. So let's go check now and see what it's giving. Okay, now you see it becomes more and more complex and difficult to decrypt such password. So by using this method, okay, your password is more and more secured, or your router is more secure than by just putting in the password and the login command. Okay, now we move on to the next, which is what is the next stuff? We move on to the next stuff, which is assigning the IP address. Okay, now remember in the switch we saw what assigning IP address to what, like management IP. Okay, but switch is a layer 2 and in as much as layer 3, so we can assign IP address to each of the interface. Meanwhile, in a switch, especially in fact almost all switches, we can only assign IP by using the VLAN or the native VLAN 1, which is what, the management IP. Okay, but here to assign IP, what we have to do is just to go on to the interface that we want to, and then we assign the IP. So let's say we go to interface fast internet 0/0. Okay, and then we put the IP address 192.168.10.1, and we'll put the subnet now 255.255.255.0. and now we have set the IP address for this router. Okay, good. So what is the next thing that we are looking at? We are looking at what? The shutdown command. Okay, we are looking at the shutdown command. Okay, so if we want to check the interfaces of this router, we use this command, show IP interface brief. I'm just using short form. Okay, so show IP interface brief. You will see that we have IP address, the one that we just assigned to this fast internet 00. And what is it saying? The status of this interface, it is administratively down, and the protocol is also down. Now, this interface is administratively down because uh, 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 all routers come with the all routers come while the ports are shut down. So that means the command shutdown is on this router. Okay, the command shutdown is on this router, and for us to remove this command, we have to use what is called the negating command. Okay, the negating command simply means reversing or saying no to the command that has previously been there. So by negating a command, we simply go to that command line and put no before that command. So by default, most ports are administratively down, which means that it comes with the command with the shutdown command. And if you see also here, the protocols are down. This protocol is down because it is not seeing any traffic running into the router. Okay, once we connect a PC and they start exchanging information, this protocol will definitely go up. Okay, so now let's go into that interface and negate this command. Okay, so we go to interface interface fast internet 0/0, and then we'll do what we say, no short. Okay, you can just put in the short form, or you can just put all. You say no short. I mean, put this SO. You say no short. You say line change interface fast internet change state to up. Okay, so which means that what we have negate this command. Okay, so if we now look at do show IP interface brief, you see that the status is now up, but the protocol is still down. Okay, if we want to make the protocol to go up, what we simply have to do is to what, connect a PC to that port. Once it starts seeing traffic, the protocol would change state to up. Okay, so we connect a PC. So let's now go and check what happens. Okay, so show IP interface brief. You see now that the protocol has changed state to up, and the status is what, also up. Okay, but now if you really want us to see how the shutdown command is being used, let's go back to this interface. You see now the status is up. Let's go back to this interface so that you really understand how the shutdown command is used. If you want to shut down any port, you go to that port or to that interface. Okay, and you put in the command shutdown. Okay, so let's really manually do it. We go now to the interface fast. We go to interface F0. Okay, and we now put the command what, shut down. Okay, you see they say line protocol on interface fast internet 00 change state to down. So now if we go say do show IP interface brief, this is one of my best or favorite command, you will see that it is administratively down. So this is how you execute the shutdown command. Okay, but we don't need this interface to be in administratively shutdown mode, so we'll put it back up. Okay, we'll put it back up. We just say no shut. Okay, and the line is up. Okay, now what next are we going to look at? We are going to look at what, the enable password. Okay, the enable password. Now we have set the telnet password. Yeah, we set the telnet password, right? Yeah, let me see. Do show 1. Okay, so if you look at the telnet password, we set the telnet password to John. Okay, that's what we did. We set it to John, but this now is showing like this because it is encrypted. It is encrypted. Okay, so assuming that we want to log into this router from a distance, or if, let's say we are standing somewhere very far, not physically close to this router, and want to log in and make changes, we can telnet into this router and do the basic configuration that we want to do, or whatever changes that we want to make. Okay, so assuming this is our machine on the network with IP address 192.168.10.2. okay, let's assume this is a machine here on the network, and we want to telnet into this PC. Okay, we just say put in the command telnet 192.168.10.1. okay, voila. You see, it now asks us for the password that we set. You see, as a new device just logging into this router, what is the message I get? Don't mess with this router. Okay, which is our welcoming message that we set before, and now it is asking me for credential. I have to log into the password. I have to log into the router before I have the possibility of doing whatever changes that I want to do. Okay, so let us put in the password. Okay, let us put in the password. So our password was John. See, it has given me the access into the router. But now let's see what happens when I want to move from the user exit mode, okay, to the privileged exit mode. Once I type enable, okay, once I type enable, you see it's asking for password. Now this password is no longer the password that I set here in the initial login. Now this password is what we call the enable password. Okay, so to move in from the user exit mode to the privileged exit mode, where we can be able to do some changes into the router, we need what we call enable password. Okay, so I will now move on. Let's just see. Let me just say I put John. You see, it doesn't accept the password because that is not the password. But that was the password that took us or gave us access into this router. But when it comes to enable, we have to put what is called the enable password. Okay, so now we go to the router. We go now to the router. Okay, we now said we are in what? We are in line VTY, right? Line VTY 0 to 4. So we now set enable password. Okay, enable password. Let me just keep it to be John. Okay, enable password John. So now let's go in and type John and see what happened. You see, I've now been given access. Let's type John and see what happened. What? Why on earth is it not going? And we say enable password reset root, and then repeat exit. Okay, now let me come here now. This enable password, what's happening? Let's see. Let me see what this enable password is giving me. Submit. Okay, the enable password is giving me a root. Okay, so let's come back here. Enable and paste. Okay, I think that was the problem. It was the problem with the spelling. So guys, we now come in here with enable password. We now put in the root, and here you can see that we have access the switch, and we can carry on with our configuration. Okay, we can carry on with our configuration, make any changes that we want in the switch, okay, in the router, I mean to say. So that is what is known as what the enable password. Okay, so we after asking for login, we have now to ask for the enable password. Okay guys, so what have we done? We have set up the host name, logon banner, console password, password encryption, IP address, short console password, telnet password, enable password, shutdown, and negating command. Okay, and now saving the configuration, you all know. Okay, what you have to do is simply to go to the router and you type right. Okay, it will copy your setting from the running config, okay, to the startup configuration. So once you type right, you see it building configuration. It copies all your running configuration into the startup configuration. Okay, but you can also use the other method that I told you, copy running config to startup configuration. Okay guys, if this lecture was helpful to you, make sure you subscribe to our channel for more Cisco labs. You know, as we are moving on, we are going to be dealing with more and more sophisticated issues, but now we are just looking at we are just having a glimpse into the basic things and configuration. So in our next class we will start looking at the different concepts of the different concept in configuring routers, switches, and no other communication device. And at the end of it all, we will put all these concepts together to build huge enterprise and sophisticated network. Okay, see you in our next class.